cameras made contact with something square.
Oh my.
Bet
Oh my
sighed
god.
as she pulled out
What
the
is
lever.
that?
She just had to disinfect the needles.
Like, that's
She had enough
crazy.
strength to do that. Bet locked the bathroom door and steadied herself on the toilet. Sweat was pouring down her face and body now. It made the material of her shirt cling to her uncomfortably. Doc had instructed her to prick his acupuncture points when this happened to him when he was out with Johanna Nadler all those months ago. Surely she should do the same now. Come on, Bet whispered to herself. She pressed the head of the needles into each correct pressure point. Come on. She felt some of the warmth dissipate from her body, but not all. The dose she'd been given must have been stronger than the one Doc had received. Okay. Bet groaned quietly. It's okay. Just do it again. It took a few attempts to counteract the aphrodisiac's effects. A full half hour had passed before Bet felt well enough to rise from her seat. She walked back to the bedroom on wobbly legs. Luke was in bad shape. He was covered in as much sweat as she was. I could see that his pupils were blown wide as he continued his push-ups. What are you doing? Bet panted. Trying to burn it out, Luke managed through gritted teeth. Bet hurried to Luke's side and grabbed his arm. Bet pulled him to his feet, and Luke let her move him to lay out on the bed. Like with herself, Bet injected numerous needles into the correct pressure point. After some time, Luke's breathing slowed and his eyes closed in relief. Were you worried I'd use your vulnerability against you? Bet chuckled. I could have hurt you to get revenge against your parents for this disastrous night. I wouldn't have blamed you. Luke sat around, slow, deep breaths. He opened his eyes and gazed at her. You deserve an explanation for all of this, and I intend to get you one. Can you think of any reason why your parents want us to sleep together so badly? Bet asked, as she sank onto the bed next to him. Bet still kept a respectable distance. They had only just escaped the clutches of the stimulant after all. Luke was silent as he contemplated her question. He knew his parents wouldn't have gone to such great lengths to ensure a grandchild before their wedding. It had to be something else. Why don't you take a shower? He suggested, to buy himself some time. You can wear some of my clothes on your way out. That's a good idea. Bet agreed. Thanks. As Bet showered, Luke let his mind wander back to Bet's question. His family and the Diamonds had been getting close recently. Far too close for Luke's liking. If there was an explanation for his parents' behavior, he knew it had to lie there. When Bet stepped out of the bathroom later, she was wearing one of Luke's white button-down shirts. The edges of it brushed just above her knees. Luke cleared his throat and averted his eyes. Do you think the coast is clear? Bet questioned. It should be. Luke chanced a glance at Bet's striking figure. He strode over to the door and tried the handle. It's unlocked. Do you need any help? The fatigue of the drug still weighed heavily on both of them, but Bet shook her head. She balanced herself against the wall as she made her way through the house. Luke stayed close behind her in case her legs gave out on the stairs. The pair had almost made it to the front door when Luke heard hurried footsteps behind him. He scooped Bet up into his arms. What are you? Normally, Bet would have put up a bigger fight. Just trust me, Luke muttered in her ear. And hide your face in my shoulder. Uncomfortable though she was, Bet followed his instructions and buried her face in the crook of Luke's neck. Luke turned to see his mother standing on the bottommost step. Barely concealed excitement was visible on her face. I heard movement in the hall and thought I'd come to check on you both, Kristen informed him. Her eyes flicked over the scene before her. Bet was freshly showered and wearing some of Luke's...
Hello?
Yeah, the stuff, Walmart is
Alright. Alright, I'll get up there sometime. I'm so damn tired.
it's in
Yeah.
the refrigerator though, because they ain't had no room in her freezer space.
I'll
So
get
I'm
it.
about to go ahead and get them out, okay?
Alright. Alright, thanks.
drifted over her son. Luke looked thoroughly embarrassed as he
Next
carried the shotgun to
morning.
the car. Is everything all right?
Good morning.
There was a tense pause
Yes.
as Luke came up with a lie. Bet isn't feeling
Christmas.
very well,
Oh,
he explained.
well, we could dress as somebody.
Oh no! What happened?
Butterfly.
Kristen's false show of concern was almost laughable.
It's
Luke's
Christmas.
cheeks warmed.
Christmas.
It was bad enough his mother had to put them in this position to begin
Christmas.
with. The last thing he wanted to do was stumble his way through his next few words.
I want to be a
I'm worried
A
I
butterfly
might have been
today.
a little too... Bet might have found a grown man squirming this much enjoyable if their escape wasn't pinned on his performance. Too... What? Kristen pressed. Luke closed his eyes and sighed. Of all the conversations he never thought he'd have with his mother, I'm worried I was too rough with her, Luke said in all one breath. The embarrassment in his cheeks burned now. I'm taking her to the hospital to make sure nothing is wrong. Bet tilted her head slightly and gave Luke a withering look. He caught it out of the corner of his eye. Kristen looked ecstatic. She nearly clapped her hands but grasped them in front of her instead. You make sure you take good care of her, Kristen ordered her son. That's what good husbands do. Of course. Good night, Mom. Luke nodded. He slipped out of the front door with Bet still in his arms. Was that the most mortifying conversation you've ever had to have? Bet tried to keep the smirk off of her face as Luke walked down the front path toward the driveway. It's certainly up there, Luke grumbled. As the pair headed for Bet's car, Kristen rushed back up the stairs to her bedroom. Everything went according to plan, Kristen announced to her husband.
What?
Pete looked up
You
from his
just wanna
phone
make
as Kristen
Jack
eased
out?
their door closed.
What
Luke was
you
even,
doing?
shall we say,
You just wanna
a
make
bit
Jack out?
overzealous.
Don't
Please,
watch my
Kristen,
jacket.
Pete held up a
I
hand
need
to Caesar
tennis
talking.
balls from my
I
jacket.
don't need
Can I
all
have
the
another
details,
soda?
but you're sure? He asked after a moment's pause. I'm positive, Kristen beamed as she joined him in bed. Thank God, Pete sighed. Now there's no denying that Bet is a member of our family. Our debt should be settled. Back downstairs, Luke and Bet were about to get into her car when a noise beyond the property's wall caught their attention. Luke and Bet exchanged a look before Luke crept toward the sound. They both heard a grunt before Doc's head popped up over the edge of the stone. Doc hoisted himself up into a sitting position once he reached the top. That wasn't as hard as I thought, Doc huffed to himself as he fought to catch his breath. What are you doing here? Bet's question caught Doc off guard, and he nearly fell off the wall. Doc looked down at the pair of them. His heart sank as he saw Bet still being held in the police captain's arms. Upon further inspection, he noticed that Bet was also wearing Luke's shirt and not much else. Was he too late? How did you manage to sneak up there? Luke frowned. There's a neighborhood watch around here. Believe me, I know, Doc confirmed in an irritated tone. I also had to disarm your parents' security system. You still haven't answered my question. Bet cut in. Doc looked at her, quizzically, as if he'd forgotten what it was. She rolled her eyes. What are you doing here? Oh, right. Doc's voice pitched up slightly higher as his balance wavered again. I was just admiring the scenery here. Your parents certainly live in a nice neighborhood, Captain. Luke's eyes narrowed. You're a member of the Shadows Syndicate, Doc. Luke started slowly. Out of respect for Jamie, I'm going to ask you what you're doing here. But I'm only going to ask once. Doc held up a finger, then began his climb down the Foster's wall. Once he was back on solid ground, Doc brushed off his clothes. I will take her home, Doc said sternly, as he held out his arms for Bet. Bet's heart thundered in her chest as she realized the Doc was there for her. She had no idea why that thought made her happy, and she was more than willing to chalk her racing heart up to a side effect from the drug. I'll go with him, Bet told Luke. Luke hesitated a moment before he walked forward and placed Bet in Doc's arms. I'll send for... Luke began, but Doc cut him off. I'll take it from here. Doc's words were cooler than normal as he held Bet firmly against him. Now, would you mind getting the door to her car? Luke looked at Bet instead of Doc. I don't think it's safe for me to stay here, she told him. It's far too dangerous after what happened tonight. Luke nodded in shame and opened the passenger door of Bet's car. He watched glumly as Doc helped her into her seat. Luke wasn't a fool. He could see the tension between Doc and Bet. After Doc pulled out of the driveway, Luke walked to the outer perimeter of the house. One of the neighborhood watchmen was sprawled out on the sidewalk. Luke rushed over and checked his pulse. He realized that Doc might not be a fighter, but he was formidable. Luke shook the man's shoulder. "Hey, wake up." The man startled awake and then hissed as he clutched the back of his head.